Hello and welcome to Product Simply Ideas, where I try to tackle some of the hardest questions being asked of product management candidates today. Now today we have a very special question, which is one that came from one of my candidates who's preparing for interviews today. This candidate is going for a role at a very high level at Meta, and they're expecting to get a curveball thrown at them here or there. And one of the questions I've heard many times that can often get people kind of tripped up is this question. If you were going to build a product for a theme park, what would you build? Now that sounds pretty strange, right? We're talking about an interview question from Meta, and they usually ask questions that are at least tangentially related to social media. Well, this question kind of throws that out the window. This theme park question is kind of intended to get us off our normal track. After all, this isn't a social media app, and it's going to be encouraging us to think outside of Meta's usual scope. This is going to be especially important for higher level candidates at the director and director plus level. Let's recognize that this is going to be a challenge and an opportunity for us to really demonstrate our product building skills, from understanding customers to seeing opportunities in unusual places and coming up with solutions that are really going to be quite powerful. So let's dive in, and I'll pretend that I'm a candidate for Meta as a product manager, and we'll see how this goes. All right, let's do it. So, if you are going to be a product manager at, let's say, a startup, what product would you build if you needed to build something for theme parks? Oh, wow, that's a very interesting question. Let me just say thank you for taking the time to meet with me. So, let me just start with some clarifying questions. When you say build a product for theme parks, do you mean that I'm going to be building parts of a theme park, or that we're going to be building something more like a product that provides value on top of the normal theme park experience? I'm assuming that you mean the latter. Yeah, I think in this context it makes most sense for you to focus on a product that's really going to be for existing theme parks rather than sort of building out a theme park. Okay, that makes sense. And then in terms of understanding where I might build this, I'd like to discuss a little bit later why I'd like to stay focused on a particular geographic area. Will it be appropriate for me to touch on that later? Sure, I think that makes sense. Well, you can go ahead and do that. All right, great. So let me start by giving you a sense of how I'd like to proceed through this question. The first thing that I'd like to do is anchor on what our goals are for this product. It's extremely important for us to understand what success is in order for us to achieve it. So once we do that, I'm going to dive in and start thinking about what customers are going to be the best candidates for building a product like this. Understanding who the best customers will make sure that we're going after the right people at the right time and ensure our success. And once we know who they are, we'll figure out what pain points that they have so that we understand what opportunities there are to improve their experience at theme parks, and then finally come up with the solutions that will derive that value. Does that make sense? Yeah, that certainly does make sense. Why don't you go ahead? Okay, great. Then let's go ahead and define success. And the way I want to start that, right, is to understand why do theme parks matter to people? I always like to stay grounded in why a problem space matters, so that I can understand what at its root the problem solving that we're going to be doing how it will land. So when I think about theme parks, I think about people going and looking to create really memories that will last a lifetime. People go to theme parks relatively infrequently, and it's kind of a big deal when they go. Maybe some people go more than others, but I think everybody goes there with the intent to have a lot of fun, to do things that are outside their normal day-to-day, and ultimately to remember it for a long time afterwards. Now, we're building this for a startup, and so we can have any number of missions. But if I could anchor on one thing, it would be on this idea of developing a kind of a lifelong memory, or creating those experiences that'll last a lifetime. So I'll sort of define my company's mission as sort of the lifetime memory making machine. I want to build that product. And now, as far as how we'll get there, what will a product actually do in order for it to be this machine? It's got to be engaging, right? We're talking about a space that's all about fun. Well, this product needs to be used all the time. People need to engage with it. That means using it all the time. And if we can get them to do that, then I think it's reasonable to say that we will have been successful in creating a product that has a lot of value for them. So I'm going to really focus first of all on making sure people use this thing, and then we can worry about other activities like coming up with a strategy for user acquisition or monetization after we've got that core value proposition worked out. Does that make sense? Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think I might be interested to hear how you might monetize this down the road. Okay, I'll keep that in mind. Now, if it's all right, I'd like to sort of finally define the goal of this product in light of its mission, in light of the space that it lives in. It's like, okay, so for this product, my goal is going to be to build an extremely engaging product that helps people better formulate lifelong memories so that they can experience in this dream machine of our imagining. All right. Now, we've established our goal. Now, the next thing that I'd like to see us do together is figure out who are the best customers for us to build this product for. Now, ultimately, we're going to want this thing to scale to as many people as possible. But to start with, we need to be super smart. We're a startup. We need to understand who our ideal value proposition, our ideal customer profile is. And if we can do that, we can really land and expand. We can be successful with a small group and use those learnings to go to a broader group. Now, if you'll give me just a few moments to gather my thoughts, I'll come back and talk a little bit about who the customers are that we should be focusing on. Okay, sounds good. Okay, I've jotted down a few thoughts that I think will help guide the discussion. But before we talk about exactly who we're going to talk about, I'd like to first talk about the fact that we're going to be operating in a two-sided marketplace when we build this product. We're going to, first of all, have the people who intend to go to the theme parks, but we also are going to have another really important constituent, which is everybody who provides theme park services. Now, that can include the theme parks themselves. It could include employees that work there, and it could include advertisers, perhaps. Really, the whole complex of people and organizations that together create the theme park experience. Now, understanding that this two-sided marketplace is really important. Okay, I ran out of batteries on my webcam. Let me pick it up where I left off. The two-sided marketplace is extremely important because we have to choose, are we going to provide services to the people that are providing services to the people coming to the park, or are we going to provide services to the park? Well, I think it makes most sense for us to focus on the people that are coming to the park, because ultimately it's their engagement with the park that makes the whole endeavor valuable. If we can build a product that makes going to theme parks more attractive for people, get people more excited about it, then the supply side is going to be excited about it as well. So for us, as a third party coming in with an app, we could get invited along to theme parks just because we provide that engagement. So in other words, if we get people's demand built up for this product, we can experience a sort of ecosystem-wide sort of adoption cycle, and we would love to see that happen. So I'm going to be focused on the demand side here. Now that we've sort of understood that we're going to focus on the visitors, the demand side, I want to break down that broad group of people into smaller groups so that we can identify that ideal customer profile, again, so that we can land and expand. And I've come up with a few groups that I think are really important. The first are parents. Now, I don't know about you, but a lot of the parents that I talk to get really excited to bring their kids to theme parks. And it's in large part because of those memories that can be created at theme parks, as well as finding something to do with their kids for a weekend or a long weekend when kids are out of school. So given that we have this opportunity to market to parents, I'd like to just say this is a really, really good group to focus on because they have a lot of motivation. They're strongly motivated to go and bring kids there and potentially open to using something to make the experience even better. Now, the second group that I came up with are locals. And we had kind of touched on this earlier. But I would say this group is anybody who lives near a theme park that can use theme parks more regularly. Now, the reason I think this is an interesting group is because they have a greater frequency of going to parks. And they may be more keenly aware of some of the issues with the parks. And perhaps a product that comes in and can address some of the issues they experience can really drive additional attendance to these theme parks and add a lot of value. I think it's an interesting possibility. Next, I'd like to talk about groups of friends. Now, this is groups of, maybe lots of different age groups, maybe any ranging from teens going together in high school, or groups of adults who are enjoying a reunion. This is an interesting group because there's a lot of pain points that come together with logistics, dealing with how to stay together, that are pretty common and may represent opportunities to add a lot of value. But broadly, I think there's a decent amount of them and a decent amount of engagement potentially for a product like this. Now, as I said, we really want to focus in on that ideal customer profile. Who should we focus on? And in this case, I'm looking at these three really good potential options and thinking locals might be really interesting, but they may be sort of less motivated to experience new things at the park just because it's very common to them. So I think although this is an interesting group, it's also going to be limited to the geography around them. There are only so many locals after all. I'm thinking that this one I'd rather take a pass on. And for groups of friends, I liked the idea, but I think some of the problems that they're going to have if we were going to sort of focus on them, they wouldn't necessarily be generalized to a broader group of people. And that leaves us with sort of parents, people with dependents. And I think this is a really powerful group because there's no better time to develop those, lifetime memories than when you have kids of your own. And there's a lot of these people going to theme parks. That's such a critical thing. We want to find a group that's large, and also one whose problems can potentially scale to other groups. And I think there's a good likelihood that if we solve things for parents, we'll also have wound up solving them for broader groups of people and put ourselves in a good position to expand. Does that make sense? Yeah, I think that does make sense. Okay, cool. So then now that we've sort of narrowed our customer profile down to parents, I'd like to take a minute and think through what pain points they might have, sort of these powerful opportunities for us to build something truly exceptional. So let me just take a minute and jot down some of those possibilities. Okay, I think I've got some thoughts. So let's figure out some opportunities to add some value to parents. Now to do that, I'd like to point out that going to a theme park involves a pretty lengthy journey, all the way from ideation and thinking about whether you want to go to a theme park, and sort of getting there and being there and then leaving. I think there are a lot of different opportunities to add value, but although it might be really interesting to focus in on which theme park should I go to today, the types of things that I really want to focus on are the experiences during the park, during the time at the park, right? I had said that my mission is going to be sort of building a machine for memories, and I really think that means that we should build something sort of focused on that core experience. So let me tell you some pain points that I think people experience while they're at the park. And once we do that, we can come up with some solutions for some of that pain. So the first one that I thought of is food is slow. Food is slow and maybe not that good. Now, when I think of this pain point, I think of a young child who wants to eat and won't eat any of the food at the park. Or worse yet, they know what they want, but it's just not coming fast enough. They said that they'd get it in 30 minutes, but it's taking 60 minutes because there's so many people at the park. I can imagine the pain of the parents knowing that should have brought more snacks. This is a serious opportunity for a meltdown, and for a family to have to leave the park to get a proper meal in. And I think this is a really credible problem just because I have seen so many parents struggle with mealtime out and about under normal circumstances. So it has to only be that much more problematic at a theme park. Now the next thing that I came up with was, I'm sure you've perhaps anticipated I would say this, but really horrible wait times at theme parks. I have heard that Disney, for instance, is selling a $450 pass to help people get past the lines, which is pretty incredible when you think about it. So there's clearly a demand for solutions to this very urgent problem. It's easy to understand why. If you're stuck on the line, you're not enjoying the core experiences that the park has to offer. So I don't think we'd have done ourselves any justice if we don't attempt to try to at least consider solving this problem. Now, the last thing I thought of is what I'm calling forgetting to remember. We talked about building a memory machine. I think one of the realities of being in a theme park is that you can be so distracted by all of the stimuli that you forget to take the photos that you wanted to take, forgot to take the videos that you wanted to take, or didn't feel like you were quite in the spot to be able to do that. So, I think this problem of not really being able to take the photo, taking the media that you think you wanted to take, would be a real pain point for people. Now, what I'd like to do is select from one of these three options and consider that the pain point that we want to address. So what do I want to focus on here is, first of all, how bad a problem is this for our chosen group of parents? And also, how often does it happen? But the other thing that I want to think about also is this really a generalizable problem that could also be experienced by other people? I actually would really like to see that because it means that I'll be able to not only really resonate with our key constituent, but potentially improve my odds of expanding to other customers down the line. So, looking at that, I think dealing with horrible wait times is just an unavoidably severe problem. I think having a solution for food is definitely highly a lot of high merit. I think it's a very serious problem, but I don't think it's going to be happening every single time. And kids have a different level of sensitivity to food. It might be kind of actually an edge case when you really think about it. As far as forgetting to remember to take photos, again, it may vary. It depends on the people that are coming. So what we can really do is guarantee that we've addressed the problem that matters for parents, but also to a broader group of people if we focus on those horrible wait times. So I feel like my arm is being twisted and that I have to choose this pain point. And I'm fine with that as long as it's really the most important pain point for people. Does that make sense? Yeah, I think that does make sense. Okay, great. So let's see. Now that we've identified a pain point that we want to focus on, let's come together and find a solution that can address it. I'm just going to take a quick moment to think that through. Okay. So when I think about this problem, I think of two broad classes of solutions. The first is reducing the amount of time that it takes people, or that people have to wait online. And I think maybe in a more innovative kind of way, is to make being online less of a drag. So for the first group, I think the solution that comes to mind for me the most is essentially heat-seeking guidance for people to find the rides with the least lines that are maybe the most interesting. The app, I'm going to assume this is a mobile app that people are using while they're at the park, can give, let's say, active navigation to locations where there are sort of underused, super fun rides, saying like, "Hey, we found an underused spot," and literally give navigation. You can walk directly to that place. So without having to think about it, you're kind of optimizing your fun/waiting ratio. You could also amplify this by having notifications that show up, get sent to your Apple Watch, right? Say, hey, you should go in this direction, and you'll find a good experience. I kind of like this because it's a very straightforward solution to this problem. Wait times are bad. Well, let's reduce the wait times by having you wait in line less per unit of fun. So that's interesting. I also like the idea of making being online a little bit more interesting. So I was thinking about an idea where some people in line, especially for the longest lines, have access to a VR headset experience where, if you're the 10th person in line, you get to get a VR headset put on, and you get a special interactive look at the theme park, or you have a secret bonus ride. You could make people even more engaged by making it so that there's a competition that has to happen on their phone to get the privilege of getting this secret ride. That could actually create the situation where people would be a little bit excited to be on the line, which is exactly where we want to be. If we want to create this really memorable experience, why not make the time online something worth being excited for too? My third idea is sort of in the same vein, where imagine when you're online, and only when you're online, you could have a creature hunt, kind of like Pokemon Go, where you have an augmented reality game where if you're online, you're able to see these creatures. I could see this being something that children would be interested in, could help them be more excited about the wait. But it could also be something that grown-ups like too. Grown-ups play Pokemon Go too, after all. So I think these are all credible options. By looking at them, just taking a second look to see which ones I'd be a little bit more excited about. The sort of entertaining VR option is pretty hardware intensive. That's fine, but you have to remember that there's wear and tear, there's sweaty foreheads from standing in line in the sun. I think realistically there'd be some people who'd be a little bit less enthusiastic about this. Looking at heat map guidance, I like this idea, but I'm a little bit skeptical how much value we can really eke out of it, simply because people are pretty good about knowing what the good rides are, and the good rides kind of have the lines. So I'm not super convinced that we could do more than people are already doing, but I might be convinced otherwise. But in any case, I find this idea of this secret AR creature hunting game while online as being a really a credible solution for solving things for parents by solving things for kids, while also creating a really memorable experience worth talking about after you leave the park, and getting people excited about being at the theme parks a little bit more than they were before. And since we had set out about building a product that would be able to be engaging by creating memorable experiences, I think this game, complete with taking photos with your pet that you want, can make an otherwise boring part of your experience one that's actually quite engaging and interesting. So that's my idea. I'd love to hear feedback on it if you like. Okay, so there's my my interview response. I feel pretty good about it, but I'd love to hear your thoughts about it. Feel free to send me a note, give me your own criticisms and feedback. I'm gonna give my own thoughts after I watch it on my site, productsimply.com. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and like and do all that stuff.